Hey everyone, Kumar Data Train here with Meridian Point, and today we're joined by Gary Cohen, Principal Consultant at Practical Agility and an engineering and product leader who spent 20 years building a delivery process that could ship software on schedule almost every time. Here's the problem he ran into. While the delivery execution worked and many of the features were happily used by customers, it didn't always move the needle in terms of revenue or customer growth. With a top-notch UX group and talented product management team, they were seemingly doing everything right, but didn't always get the full impact they were hoping for. That sent him chasing to answer a harder question than, are we on track to deliver against our roadmap? The question of whether we're building the most impactful features for our customers and for our business. He's here to share his thoughts on why it's important to embrace uncertainty in product development and share ideas on how to improve the executive status meetings that go along with them. So without further ado, let me pull Gary on stage. Gary, so happy to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I when I read your intro, I was struck by how similar it is to the pitch for our product mindset course. It's about improving the impact on both the customer, the outcome for the customer, and the impact on the business. And it's funny how we've sort of traveled the last 20 years trying to crack that nut. And so, in your case, you've been spending a long time building teams that could deliver, right? It almost very predictably deliver what they commit to every sprint, every iteration. But then, after delivering, you find that it didn't quite hit the mark. So I don't know, tell me about how that changed your thinking and what you started to look for instead.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it took a long time to get the delivery portion down to a smooth running process. So I don't want to shortchange that, but yes, we worked on that. We focused on that, and the customers who were our heavy duty customers, they liked the software, they liked the stuff we were building, they participated in everything. But at the end of the day, did it drive a whole bunch of new customers in? Sometimes, but sometimes not, right?
Yeah.
Did it increase our revenue? And no. So I think the moment that really hit home for me, that maybe we were sub-optimizing on, delivery instead of impact, was when we were kind of in our private equity owned stage, right? And one of the principals from the PE company, who was also a board member, right, he's asking me, so what additional revenue do we anticipate from the investment to build these features? And in some way, I mean, it makes perfect sense, but in some ways, this is like a brand new world for me. And it's like, oh, I thought we just continue to build features because that's what customers pay us for, right? As a SaaS company. But, we assumed that by doing more features that it would result in more usage and more revenue from both existing and new customers. And as it turns out, that's not, if you're not looking out for that to begin with, right? The ideas that you generally wind up working on are very incremental and not big enough to move the needle.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and also it's an interesting insight in that for most companies, where the distance between the people building the thing, whatever the thing is, and the people using the thing it's quite far. You're not sitting in the customer's shoes every day. You don't know how they use these products or services. Do you think that has a bearing on the inability or the lack of sort of empathy, maybe, for what customers go through when you're building them these new features?
that's the thing is, I mean, I know in some places that's very true, right? They don't
Yeah.
see the customer at all. Here, we actually spent a lot of time and money and, effort
Mm,
to bring in customers, sometimes go to their place, see what they're trying to do. Um, some of it is more just, hey, understand their job, and then the other part is, okay, we've put together something that we think will help you do your job better. Now tell us, what you think of that, right? And I mean, we had packed sprint reviews every, what was it? I guess 2 or 3 weeks. I guess
hmm
like literally it was appointment television for some of our customers, and so we were good with them. But I think one problem was we weren't out in the general marketplace, right? We
mm,
weren't sitting with people. In our case, a lot of times it's not just our other software competitors. It's like Microsoft Excel or Project or
mm,
Word or whatever, right? Um, and so I think like we were definitely missing those folks, and also because we were just so focused on incremental change for our
mm, hmm
customers, we didn't even like if the board said to me, um, hey, we need to increase revenue by 20% over the next year, right? I don't know if I could do it, right?
mm.
But if that was what was put in front of me, I certainly would have
It
then
would have changed
entertained
your
a whole
approach.
lot of different ideas of a bigger
Yeah.
scale than
Yeah.
what we were doing.
So do you think it's the language that was used in this example that they weren't until this investor said, "Hey, so what's the ROI for these features?" And before that, it was more about, "Hey, let's just." They weren't using that language, those terms. They weren't asking for those things, and so the teams got really good at delivering things that were maybe incrementally improving the experience, but not enough to move the needle.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, we were not thinking big enough. Right. And again, it's not just the product team or the engineering team that's not thinking big enough.
Just the royal we, all of us weren't thinking big enough.
Right. The whole company. And
Yeah.
I think, for also as a product company that has a sizable customer base, we want to
Yeah.
protect that customer base.
Mm.
And sometimes we lose hey, let's just go out and talk to people who aren't using anything, right? And let's see how they're getting along, right? And what their
Yeah.
biggest pains are, and how we can try and solve them.
Yeah.
And
Huh.
I think part of it is though that if you know that that's what's expected of you is to deliver 20% year over year revenue growth, well, there's only certain ways that you can go about doing that, right?
Right.
And you need to go venture a little bit further out, and so that part was definitely missing.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, especially for was this a startup or
It wasn't
established?
a startup, but
Mhm.
we were part of a bigger company. We were the only software product
I
part
see.
in
Okay.
there,
Mhm.
and then we got sold to a private equity company. We got spun out into an
Oh, okay.
independent company,
Okay.
right? But again, a little bit of the innovator's dilemma in that
Yeah.
you have your existing customers. You have a reputation in the marketplace. You want to protect that, and sometimes when you do that, you get a little bit too
Yeah.
incremental.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good lesson to learn. One of the things that in our prep conversation you said to me that kind of stuck. I mean, you tell leaders to embrace uncertainty. What does that look like? You know, is it sort of like, yeah, me, I'll just stop there. What does that look like for you and when you work with teams today?
Yeah, well, I think embracing opportunity is incredibly important because
No, uncertainty.
What's that?
That's the word you use. You use the word uncertainty for the
Yeah,
leaders.
embrace uncertainty
Yeah.
is incredibly important.
Yeah.
If I said certainty, sorry, um, but yeah, so uncertainty is incredibly important because it's that presence of uncertainty that creates the opportunity for differentiation in the marketplace, right? If there's no uncertainty, then really the only differentiation comes from going from plan to delivery, right?
Yeah.
Who can execute the best. And if that's true, then maybe you're in a commodity business with, shrinking profit margins. But, when there's a high level of uncertainty, the organizations that can reduce that uncertainty iteratively and systematically and most efficiently will wind up finding the best ideas, learn how to implement those ideas, and do so faster than their competitors.
I suppose when things are uncertain, you should not be making big investments, right, in product. We should be making more exploratory investments to see if whatever idea you have is viable before you invest lots of money in something that's uncertain. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, you certainly have to get very good at learning, right? And how do I reduce uncertainty in it, right? Like, what's the most important? What's the one thing that can doom this opportunity, right, or this potential solution? And then, how do I what's the quickest way for me to either validate that it's okay to go ahead or invalidate, and saying, no, this will never work. So let me find another idea to.
Yeah. You sort of pivot and move to something else because you've either proven. You don't pivot if you've proven your hypothesis, but if you haven't, then you pivot and you move to something else that maybe you sink some time and money into. Makes a lot of sense to me. But it is a hard thing, right? I think a lot of times product leaders or just leaders in general will commit to something at times when you don't know enough about whether it's viable or feasible and how do you change that mindset? What's been your experience?
Well, one way is to say, hey, we've done it this way in the past, right? And while we may have gotten decent results, have we set the world on fire, in a positive way? Well, if you have it, like, hey, if whatever you're doing, if it works spectacularly, then I'm not here to tell you to change or whatever. But I think for most people, like the way that product development usually works is we do a bunch of upfront discovery work, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk to people in the marketplace, customers, this and that, and we come up with what we think is the one best idea. And there's a few problems with that. So one is that this is the beginning when you just start working in an area is when you know the least about it, right?
Yeah.
So you're making a decision way too early. And then number two, just the way that a lot of organizations and a lot of product development works is once you have that initial idea and that initial roadmap, it's just a question of degree and how quickly we get through, the roadmap, even in really agile places. Like we might say, okay, we only need to do a little bit of this, or, it might turn out, okay, we think we need to do a lot of this, but whatever's on the roadmap, right? That's sort of how you're going about it. And in a lot of ways, I'm not sure if you're a poker player. I'm not really a poker player, but like it's basically going all in on your one hand. And if your hand loses, like you got problems, especially because these roadmaps, even doing it at, iteratively or whatever, is still months and even a year or 2
years. Certainly I've been there.
Yeah. So the idea is like, okay, well, maybe we need to let's start with the business objective we're hoping to achieve, right? And then what are big enough opportunities in the marketplace, like customer wants or needs that are significant enough that, if we can solve that, we're going to at least be in the right ballpark for our business outcomes. And then you take for each of those opportunities, you can say, okay, we have a few ideas of solutions which might address that particular opportunity, right? And but now you have multiple potential solutions, right? Which in the old world kind of frightened us, like, oh no, we need to pick one and get moving, right? But I think the idea is when you're truly in an uncertain world and you're shooting for big market changes, you need to continuously consider several different solutions.
Yeah.
And then like identify what are the critical assumptions that have to be true for each of those solutions, right? Yep. And then you were talking before, like it's kind of more learning than writing a whole lot of code, right? And that's the stage that we're at then. I also think like this is probably a good time for me, because I don't want to take credit for some of this terminology, right? A lot of this is coming from Teresa Torres's work with opportunity solution trees and continuous discovery habits. And it's a wonderful book if people haven't read it. But, but a lot of what she says resonates with me, having gone through the experience of kind of doing it the traditional way.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense to me, and I have read her book. It's been a little while, but I have read her book, and it influenced the maybe subliminally, maybe more than that, the creation of the course that I mentioned, the product mindset course, because a lot of that language is in there, a lot of that thinking is in there, and it certainly it was a great joy to create, and the fruits of it have been proven, right? So with people that are going through those cohorts, there was a group of students that just went through it, and many of them, the comments that they're leaving is just like, oh my God, this is so life-changing. No one's really asked me about, what the impact of the business is or what the outcomes the customers would experience. We just go do it. A lot of companies are just feature factories, right? You just go deliver features because that's what you're expected to do. And there isn't enough of a feedback loop to say, okay, what are we delivering? Is it actually moving the needle, to use the words you used, right? Is it making an impact on our business? Is it providing the outcomes that we think it should for our customers? And how do we know that? How do we know how they were feeling before, as opposed to how they're feeling now about the products and services that they're using? So this all resonates with me very, very strongly.
Sounds like a good class.
It was great. Yeah, we just got just over. It was I think the last session was 2 weeks ago, and the results are still coming in with some of the capstone work that they go through a 6-week program, and they have to write. They sort of build this capstone product, and they have to present that. And some people were late, so it's still coming in, and but the feedback's been amazing. And we just revamped it, so we added some AI into that course, and it helps them. All the thinking that we do in our live sessions is with our human minds, no assistance from an AI. But the asynchronous sessions, they're able to refine what we start in our live sessions with the help of an AI agent, sort of a coach, a product coach, that helps them refine their thinking. And I think the combination of the two was really useful for them for the class.
Neat.
It was very neat. All right, let's kind of shift a little bit. So when it comes to the second part of your intro, right, is about the status meeting and how to improve that. Where's the connection there? So you've got product teams that are delivering, and they're delivering on time, but they're not necessarily delivering things that make an impact. How does that show up on a executive status meeting?
Well, in traditional ones, it doesn't. And
Yeah.
usually it's not even the biggest problem. Like I know you mentioned feature factories before, and I know
Yeah.
feature factories get a bad name, right? But there's a whole bunch of development organizations out there that would like to at least get to being a feature factory, even though we know that, at least they're delivering on a regular basis. And
Yeah.
then it's kind of the next stage, which is how do we deliver the stuff that really matters and moves the needle. But like I know we've all been in, the red, yellow, green status meetings, right? And they're problematic for a few reasons. One is that all you're really concerned about is delivery risk, schedule risk, which doesn't tell you if you're building the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's one problem. The other big problem with it is that people are scared as heck in those meetings. Like they're very defensive going in there, and so everybody reports out that their project or their product or whatever is green status, or then there's the ever popular yellow, but we're trending back to green, right? Like that's about as far as people are willing to go, until it's like painfully obvious that they're red.
Right.
And so you get these watermelon projects, which are green on the
Yeah.
outside, but really red inside. And so it's essentially theater. And as a leader, they have to be useless. Like not only are they only talking about delivery risk, right? But you're not actually getting accurate information either, right?
Right.
Everybody hates it. So like, I think there's a different way that we could do it, right? Which gets to let's ask the right questions, right? And so, we kind of talked about opportunity solution trees, right? That's sort of what I was describing before. And like, imagine a team going into a meeting with an executive, a status meeting or whatever, with an opportunity solution tree. So now all of a sudden there are things that are on the table, like information that's out there that just weren't there before. So which opportunity are we focused on, right? A list of different ways that we can attempt to take advantage of the opportunity, like different potential solutions. What are the critical assumptions that have to be true for each solution, right, to allow us to hit our business outcomes, right?
Yeah.
Which is what the executives really care about,
Yeah.
right? And then, what things have been validated or invalidated already. And so with that information, everyone in the meeting, right, what sort of questions can executives ask, right? What potential solutions did we kill because we learned something that invalidated a critical assumption? Like, I know it sounds bad to kill ideas, or kill solutions, but the faster you do that, the more chance that you'll actually get to the right solution, right?
Yeah.
And number two, what have we learned since our last meeting that validates critical assumptions in the solutions we're really actively looking at?
Yeah.
What the most important thing for us to learn before our next meeting?
Yeah.
Right? Have we identified any new potential solutions? Here's a big one. Are we still convinced that this opportunity is the one we should be focused on? You definitely don't hear that in your everyday status meetings, right? So none of these questions are like accusatory, right? It's more collaborative.
Yeah. It's more generative and collaborative. You're right. Yeah. It seems like where a lot of companies, big companies, this is sort of, and I don't know what your experience has been, but certainly I haven't seen this type of meeting all that often. And I don't know, why do you, I'm wondering why that is. Is it because leaders in these companies, they want to know about the one solution and they don't want to be, they're overwhelmed with all the multiple options they have in front of them, or, the possibilities, and and they just don't have time to engage. What is your sense of the appetite for this type? I mean, it certainly seems a lot more useful, but I just don't know how it would work in a large bureaucratic company where the culture is more about these types of status meetings. Even though everyone would tell you, "Oh my God, that's such a waste of time," it still persists. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, I think there are a couple of reasons. Like, first of all, one, if you're doing internal software, for example,
Yeah.
and you don't really have to differentiate, you just kind of have to get the job done, right? Then you're not really trying to find the optimal solution. Any solution will do. So delivery becomes like the big thing, right? We just need a new billing system that can do X. Then I think the other thing is just incentives, right? A lot of times we, within the organization, we form our incentives, financial incentives, on delivering this particular feature or this particular project, right? And so that, again, just points to we figured out the right way to go, and all we need to do is deliver it. But then I think the one thing that that might be an opening for this a little bit is, so if you're a senior leader or an executive leader, right, and you have to go in front of the CEO or the board on a regular basis, right, and commit to things, right, and especially when the board's talking about business outcomes, right, so you have to report out, and like you might not always be able to commit to something, but you at least want to have confidence that whatever it is that you're sharing with the board is accurate, right?
Yeah.
Going back to the green, the red, yellow, green meetings, you should have no confidence that you have any certainty about what's going on there, right?
Yeah.
And you only have one hand to play, right? In terms of delivering this will solve, will help us hit our business outcomes, right? Yeah. And that's the way it's traditionally done. But having been in that situation, having to report to the board, I would feel a whole lot better if we're talking about these things we just mentioned, the more generative questions, right? And having multiple ways to try and get to the intended business outcome. And you can talk about it like, hey, we're basing this off of these assumptions that we validated in this particular way. Yeah. Right. There's still some inherent risk in it. And that's why we also have this other thing that's kind of in our back pocket, where, which takes a slightly different approach. I mean, that's in certain circumstances, that's a much more defensible thing to say. So I don't know, but there's a lot of things that are holding the status quo together.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I think that's a great summary of how you can kind of shift the narrative a little bit. So for a listener out there, maybe listening to this show, who runs these types of meetings and maybe runs them like an interrogation, because that's just the culture, that's just the nature of how things work, right? So, what's the status of this and what's the status of that, and why is it not green, or why is it yellow or red or whatever it might be, and what are you doing to fix it? What's the first thing they can do to change and shift some of the conversation, the collaboration in the room, from more policing the delivery to more discovery, more of that generative, collaborative type of conversation? Yeah.
So short answer is there's probably several things that they could do fairly easily to change the tenor of the meeting. One obvious thing that comes to mind is to ask each team when it's their turn, how can I help? Right? I'm not sure if you're familiar with. There was an NBC show called New Amsterdam. It was like one of those hospital shows.
Yeah.
And the fictional medical director in there, his name was Max Goodwin.
Yeah.
That's the first thing he said. How can I help? Whenever anybody would come up to him. Right. And I know it sounds Pollyannish, and but it does change the tone from what can you do for me? Right. Or being on the defensive to what can I do for you?
Yeah.
And I think it nudges everyone towards sharing information rather than framing information, because if you're offering to help me, in order to take you up on that, I have to offer up information about what I need help with.
Yeah.
Right.
It does change the narrative completely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It sort of sets the frame for more safety in the room just by saying those words.
Right. So that changes the tenor, but it doesn't change the questions that are being asked. So another thing would be, like, before I ever asked if things are on schedule, I might ask a question like, or I might just say, like, as a reminder, here are the business outcomes we're shooting for this effort, right? How comfortable are we that this is still the best way to accomplish these outcomes? You know, and what have we learned since last time that is either confirmed or cast doubt on this?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Those are all simple things, but they can have a profound impact on the, like you said, the tenor, the feeling, the vibe in the meeting, right? Yeah. So we can't end any of these interviews. I don't think I can end any of these interviews without asking a question about AI. I already mentioned AI because I used it in the course that I revamped, right, to embed an AI coach and agent in each of the modules as they go from sort of concept to build, or and it proved to be very helpful for the people in the class. And that's just a small example of how AI can be useful in augmenting the understanding that people have, in this case, understanding of how to build products and build them more collaboratively and so on. But AI is also getting really good at the build itself, at writing code and at the shipping of the code and of monitoring the pipelines and making sure that all the tests execute. A lot of the stuff is now can be automated if that's an organization's choice, with of course humans there to kind of watch the edges, catch things that may fall out. So where does product management go with all of these tools that allow you to ship faster, if you will?
Yeah.
And maybe still ship a bunch of stuff that people don't need.
Yeah. So we can ship stuff people don't want a lot faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that it only makes product discovery more important, right? When something becomes cheaper, right? In this case, putting out code, right? Writing code, deploying code, right? When something gets cheaper, actually people do more of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's right. So now there's going to be more competition out on the marketplace, right? You're going to see I read an article somewhere that, like, on Google's Google Play, or I don't know whatever app store it was, there's like hundreds of thousands of new apps being, that are out there. So, like, how do you stand out? Like, right? It's how do you stand out? If you're a SaaS company, right? A product company, a lot more, many of your former customers may decide, oh, they can just build something themselves that does a good enough job, right? So differentiation becomes that much more difficult and even more critical to achieve. And really there's only two levers that I know about that will help you with that, right? Mm-hmm. One is maybe having a data moat. You have some data that nobody else has, right? Because in the age of AI, that data is really important. But but the other one is just, can you do product discovery? Can you find that, now that the bar is higher, can you find those things that are really, really valuable, that nobody else can do, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot harder. But
Yeah.
I mean, I would also say it's not all doom and gloom there, right? Remember, we were talking about opportunity solution trees and considering multiple solutions to an opportunity, right? Well, I think considering multiple solutions becomes much easier when the cost and speed of developing those solutions drops significantly.
Very true. Yeah, you can get to prototype very fast, and you can start to evaluate some of the options that are out there much faster.
Right. And and the other thing, and I hate that I keep talking about opportunity solution trees all the time, but in the past, you may have had a potential solution that you discarded because some part of it was not feasible, right? Or it was too costly, or whatever the case may be. But now maybe with AI, some of those things you want to go revisit the assumptions because things have changed, right? And so I think product discovery becomes not only knowing your customers and knowing the market and the opportunities, but just it becomes a continuous activity, always rethinking what the best opportunities are, and the best solutions are.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, really good point. All right, we're going to end with some lightning round questions. So first one, so you led the Agile transformation for Google's customer support tooling, right?
For one of their customer support groups. Yep.
Okay. So one thing about how Google builds products that every other company gets wrong. What's one thing? If there is one.
What's one thing that they get right that everybody else gets wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, one thing is they shoot really big.
Okay. So they shoot big, as in their vision is very aspirational. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like they're looking for very complex, using advanced technology. They are very, they're very smart people, and they have big ideas, and even I think their incentive system encourages them to try and build big things.
Okay, gotcha. Do you think that they're more focused on customer outcomes, business impact, or both equally, or one more than the other?
I actually don't. I mean, again, it's been a few years since I worked with them. It was one group there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think they would probably, and again, this is my own personal opinion, I would say they're more of the, here's the technology, let's build something great with it, and then we'll sort of, yes, they do have reasons why they're building certain things for customer support, certain things that they think that they can do, but I think a lot of it's driven more by this technology could be used for this rather than like, hey, we think there's this huge opportunity. Let's figure out what technology is best.
Okay, gotcha. So they're sort of, they've got the heft and the money behind them to experiment with lots of different technologies and put them to use and then learn from it. And it's okay if 8 out of 10 products fail, because it doesn't matter.
Right. Well, right. When you have you have your search business, your ads business, right? You have a lot of room to experiment.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Complete this sentence. So the most useless artifact in a project status meeting is what?
Whatever has red, yellow, and green on it.
Whatever has what?
Red, yellow, and green on it.
Oh, red, yellow, and green. Okay. Okay. Cool. So I'll grade this, A through an F. How well the Agile industry actually learned to do discovery.
The Agile industry, probably C- or D, I think. I mean, I've seen it done fairly well at a few places,
Yeah.
but most of the things that we talk about, like if you said agile organizations, I might give you a little bit higher grade, but like I know at all the agile conferences, like they might have 50 sessions and like 3 or 4 of them are in product discovery.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question, because I don't think we pay enough attention to that.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
Yeah. All right, one book, and not Teresa Torres, but one book that changed how you think about building products, besides that one, because we know you love that one.
Yeah. That is a good question. I guess, I mean, there are a couple that stick out. I mean, Lean Startup was one that, you know, I think stuck with me for a long time.
Yeah. That's
I mean, that's probably the one that influenced me the most.
Okay. One last one. So you attend Jardina London's Leadership Circle. You're a regular attendee there. So what's one of the best ideas you walked out of that room with?
Wow, these are tough questions because there's so many to choose from. I mean, usually it's a sense of nuance more than anything else, right? It's like, okay, it's usually related to how organizations work and how change gets absorbed through them. I guess I'm like blanking out here for a second. But I like, for example, one of the things I remember from a while back is top-down organizational change or bottom-up, you know, or like Big Bang or organic, right? And you know, it's sort of thing where people have different opinions, and I think you come away with more nuanced opinions, and and as I like to kid around with Jardina, because she's the one who introduced me to polarities, you know, or whatever, is it's a polarity, right? So you kind of have to, you need a little bit of both. You can't get there just by doing top down, right? And forgetting about organic change. And vice versa, you can't do it either. So you kind of have to manage the balance. At certain times, you may want to go more top down, and other times it may be let me structure the organization so organic change is happening, and you know, we're constantly evolving.
Yeah, I love it. Anything I haven't asked you, Gary, that you'd like to share?
No, lots of good questions here, and yeah, I enjoyed chatting with you about it.
Yeah, so did I. Likewise. I hope all of you enjoyed it as well, audience, and please leave information in the show notes on how people can contact you, Gary, and your LinkedIn, things like that. So if people want to find out more about the things that you talk about, that we talked about in terms of product leadership, they know who to contact.
Great. I appreciate that.
Right.
And love to hear from people.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much. See you all in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Thanks.